With sensory data, if you have a trained panel, you do have some level of repeatability. But if you're going to a consumer, then you've got a room full of subjective judges who are going to come to you with their perspective and their own perceptions. And that's why it gets a little tricky to measure that.
The Act also gave the FDA much more power to detain foods. The definition of adulterated foods, it's now much more, it's a much more strict definition. The FDA inspectors, for example, don't have to take the food to a lab and do testing to prove that it's adulterated. If there is a suspicion of adulteration, it's enough to give them powers to act, take some sort of action on the particular food that is suspect.
And then you do have information to share if regulatory individuals stop by and ask you questions. Simply said, if you don't have documents and records, it didn't ever happen. Now that becomes a little bit harsh, but that's how the principles of HACCP operate. If you don't have a record of something happening or a record that something didn't happen, then you have to assume that it didn't happen at all. Now, that's where sometimes small operators get themselves crosswise of most of the documentation systems that third-party evaluators ask about. The reason that you have the records is if you have a problem, you can document what happened. I brought in 1,000 pounds of these potatoes. I did this kind of activity, I only ended up with 950. Then I did this activity, I only ended up with 700. Here's how many I shipped, but here's all the losses that I had. So when I go out to do a recall, I don't have 1,000 pounds of this product. I've only got X amount of product. And you must document where all of those losses would have occurred.
It says the plant management does not say the plant manager. All right? It says the plant management shall take all reasonable measures and precautions to ensure the following: disease control, cleanliness, education, and training and supervision. Now, some people will say, whoa, plant management, that's kind of vague, isn't it? You bet it is. Because the GMPs are written not for you as a manufacturer. They're written to protect me, the consumer, you, the consumer. So if you say, well, gee whiz, what's reasonable? I mean, if I have 90% of my employees that speak language A, is it reasonable for me to train them in language B? No, it's not reasonable. Okay? So how do you define it? You have to define it. And that's why, keep in mind, they're not written for you as the manufacturer. They're written for consumer protection.
The second is the fryer, which is right next to it. And the light here is going to run the fryer. So you're going to take your chips and you're going to fry them. What size they go through there. Okay? And you've got your different sizes. Put out when you pre-sort it.
Yeah, I don't think that 10 grams are going to fit there. It's not grand. It's going to